Good afternoon. It's Thursday, the 22nd of January. From the MEN newsroom, this is Channel M's Lunchtime News, and these are today's headlines. It's D-Day for sacked superhead Jean Else. Today she'll find out if she's allowed to teach again. The setting of the rising sun. The landmark pub closes for the last time.
We've been forced to give up, basically. Nobody's spending money anymore. The pubs are dying all over the place around here, to be perfectly honest.
Miliband consults with Manchester's communities. The Foreign Secretary is due in the city today.
On issues like economy, crime and terrorism, and climate change, foreign policy and domestic policy actually merge into each other.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime, a head teacher who turned around a failing Manchester school and who worked for the government as an advisor on education will find out this afternoon whether she'll be allowed to teach again. Dame Jean Else was sacked from her job amid allegations of mismanagement, and her case is being considered by a teaching conduct committee.
Dame Jean Else was awarded a damehood for services to education after transforming Whalley Range High School for Girls from the worst attended school in the country into one of the city's top performing schools. She was suspended in 2004 following a lengthy investigation and 2 years later was sacked by Manchester City Council. The General Teaching Council is considering whether the 57-year-old former superhead, who became a government advisor on education, will be allowed to teach again. Dame Else from Macclesfield has admitted 10 out of the 12 allegations by the GTC. They include failure to follow correct recruiting and promotion procedures in relation to 10 support staff, including her twin sister Maureen Rochford. She was promoted from clerical assistant to deputy head. But Dame Else denies the allegations amount to unacceptable professional conduct. On the first day of the hearing in Birmingham, she broke down in tears as she described how she'd not been able to teach for 4 years. A ruling is expected today.
Crime levels here in Greater Manchester have fallen, according to figures released by the Home Office this morning. The figure for the 3 months between July and September have just been released. They show total crime levels are down 2.4%. The numbers of robberies fell by 2.6% to 1,632. Vehicle crime also fell by 2.2%, with just under 10,200 cases reported. There was also a reduction in violent crime, down 6.4%. But the number of burglaries has seen a big increase. More than 5,400 were reported, an increase of more than 14% on the previous year. And a mother and daughter have pleaded guilty to 48 counts of cruelty to cats in what the RSPCA has described as one of the worst cases it's come across in a long time. Beverly Walkston's story includes images you may find disturbing.
These are the squalid conditions in which more than 50 cats existed inside a home in Clayton. RSPCA inspectors found the bodies of 2 decomposed kittens curled up on a shelf alongside cups and plates when they inspected the property back in March. The grey stuff on the floor is cat excrement. It's hard to imagine a human being living here in these conditions, never mind an animal.
It's a sight that no one ever wants to see, a house completely covered in cat excrement, not a clean surface anywhere. And when I went into the downstairs room, there was a bed and it was just covered in cats, just lots of cats sat there looking back at me.
And here's the woman responsible, 67-year-old Joan Adams, who, along with her daughter Anne Adams, who didn't turn up at court today, has pleaded guilty to 48 counts of unnecessary suffering to animals.
It was just filthy. The smell was overpowering. Cats are very clean animals. You know, cats are always cleaning themselves. There wasn't a clean surface for them to sit on. They were all sneezing. They'd all got ear mites. Really not pleasant at all for them, very unwell. In fact, one of them sadly had to be put to sleep at the scene because it was in such a suffering condition.
In both women's defence, the court heard how a burst pipe had added to the mess inside the house, but the RSPCA said it was no excuse to keep the animals in such a disgusting state. Both Anne and Joan Adams have pleaded guilty to keeping 48 cats in squalid conditions at their home in Clayton. Now, they won't be sentenced today. Instead, magistrates have adjourned the case for 2 weeks while they consider the health report passports of both defendants. Now, in the meantime, the RSPCA will be looking after the cats. They'll possibly be rehomed, but in 2 weeks' time, when these defendants are sentenced, they'll be pushing for a disqualification order to make sure both of these women never have the chance to inflict this type of suffering on animals ever again. Beverly Walkden for Channel M News.
A boom in the number of babies being born in Greater Manchester has provoked more opposition to plans to reduce the number of overnight maternity units in the region from 12 to 8. Almost 5,000 more babies were born in 2007 than expected, and critics of the plans to reduce the number of wards say health bosses in charge of the maternity shake-up have severely underestimated demand and that the new streamlined system won't be able to cope. Well, they said there was no plan B, but as the region rejected the congestion charge anyway, Manchester's transport bosses are now trying to find an alternative way to get money from central government to pay for transport improvements. They've met MPs and ministers in London to ask for new proposals to be considered in an attempt to resurrect Greater Manchester's bid for money from the Transport Investment Fund. Manchester's transport officials say they're moderately confident new proposals will be agreed. The impact of the credit crunch is being felt across the board, and even the Great British Pub is feeling the pinch. The landlord of a landmark pub being forced to close his doors for the last time and is predicting a bleak future for the industry.
Well, basically now I'm just packing up everything that I own and sticking it in a van and taking it away somewhere, hopefully. We've not given up. We've been forced to give up, basically. Nobody's spending money anymore. The pubs are dying all over the place around here, to be perfectly honest.
Well, there won't be any more queues for the pool table. The fruit machine is on hold forever. And the lager's off. In fact, all of the beer's off, because down here at the Rising Sun pub in Stockport, the sun has gone down for the last time. Pub landlord David Prunty admits he's buckled under forces beyond his control.
Smoking ban, credit crunch, price of the beer from the brewery, which is absolutely horrendous. Supermarkets sell it for 50% less than I can buy it for. I can't compete with things like that.
Now, there's no doubting that beer is as popular as it ever was. Just take a look around here at the Winter Ales Festival in the city centre. Amazing turnout. So why is it then that so many pubs are closing down?
A lot of the northern towns, the pub stock grew up where the people used to live and work, and a lot of them don't live and work there anymore. So there are a lot of pubs which are simply just in the wrong place.
What do you think will be the characteristics of the pubs that ride out the storm?
Hopefully, in my opinion, it would be a pub selling 6 or 7 rail beers for a start, from a variety of breweries, and changing every week. That's what I personally would like to see, and I think they will ride the storm very well.
I think when everything is settled, when we come out of this recession, there'll be fewer pubs around, but the pubs that remain will be better pubs.
Sadly for David Prunty, after 5 years as a landlord, there's no time left to work out just what it is that's broken in the pub business. Kevin Duffy for Channel M News.
And staying with business issues, supermarket chain Morrison's has revealed that its sales jumped 8.2% over Christmas. The group reported record levels of trade across its 382 stores, helped by its focus on fresh food and promotional offers. Sainsbury's posted a like-for-like sales rise of 4.5% over the Christmas period, while Tesco managed an improvement of 2.5%. British Gas has announced it will reduce its standard gas prices by 10% from next month. Bosses say the move will benefit more than 7.5 million homes and cut 84% from the average annual gas bill. Rival firms are now expected to follow suit by reducing their prices. And Foreign Secretary David Miliband is in town today to discuss China's human rights records with members of Manchester's Chinese community. He also plans to discuss the conflict in Gaza with Muslim and Jewish community leaders in the city. Ahead of the visit, the MEN's political editor, David Ottewell, headed down to London to speak to Mr. Miliband at his headquarters at the Foreign Office.
I honestly believe that the image of America today is of the image of Barack Obama taking the oath of office, 2 million Americans in front of him, all races, all religions, all colours, all parts of the world. And that is the great strength of America in the end is not one policy or another policy pursued by one president or another president. It's about what it represents as a country of dynamism and drive and hope, actually. So I think people are looking at America today and saying, well, let's see the sort of leadership that Barack Obama has promised.
Oh.
Right, let's head now to the sport with Sam Goodman.
Thank you very much, Georgia. Well, Manchester City manager Mark Hughes will hold face-to-face talks with Robinho at the weekend. The Brazilian has phoned Hughes to apologise for leaving the club's training camp in Tenerife, but he's still expected to be disciplined. The Blues made their third signing yesterday. They agreed a £17 million deal with Hamburg for Dutch midfielder Nigel de Jong. On this morning's breakfast show, Byron and Manchester Evening News sports editor Pete Spencer spoke to City correspondent Chris Bailey, who's in Tenerife, about City's latest addition to their squad.
Yeah. Did you get to see De Jong on the plane going over?
Yeah, he was on. I was talking about boxing earlier because he was on the plane with us, and he spent most of it watching DVDs of Muhammad Ali's fights and his interviews with Michael Parkinson on the way over. He's a huge boxing fan, he told us. Going to have a sit down with him later this morning to have a detail on his move. But he was, he was quite chatty on the plane, coming over, watching his boxing DVDs. Yeah, he's not the biggest. He's not, he's not physically huge, but he's got a great reputation as a tackler. His former boss Martin Jol, the ex-Spurs manager, told him to City, described him as the best defensive midfielder in Europe before he left. So he's got a big billing to live up to, but he is looking forward to it. He says he's ready to go and he's going to relish the challenge.
Well, Manchester United are more clear on their injury problems. Anderson, who was stretched off during Tuesday's night's game, will be out for up to 4 weeks following an X-ray on his ankle. Raphael, who pulled his hamstring, should return in 3 weeks' time. Well, over to boxing, and Ricky Hatton's fight with Manny Pacquiao has been called off. An agreement was originally made where there would be a 50-50 split of the proceedings, but Pacquiao demanded 60-40. Well, the hitman's lawyer Gareth Williams decided he'd had enough, as Pacquiao wouldn't change his mind. So last night, they pulled the plug altogether. Hatton can now face Oscar De La Hoya at Wembley later this year. One surprise entry in this year's Dancing on Ice competition is Rugby League and Wigan Warriors legend Ellery Hanley. Byron Evans went to speak to him to find out why he's taking part.
Ellery Hanley is arguably the greatest rugby league player ever. He holds the all-time record for the most scores tried. He's picked up every accolade in the league and, well, he's got an MBE to boot. He's also had a great coaching career for the Team GB as well as at St Helens. Now, you swapped the studs for the skates, sir. What on earth made you decide to take up Dancing on Ice?
Well, I just thought it would be a new challenge, and it really is a challenge. I've got a great partner in Frankie. I couldn't ask for anybody better. She drives me, and to be honest, I'm really enjoying it. There's one thing about me, and I think everybody knows this. Once I pulled on I call it the badge of honour in my rugby league jersey. They always knew I gave them their very, very best, and I'll do the same with this as well. If I went out next week, so be it. But there's one thing with me, it won't be through lack of trying. I'll put every single minute and spend every minute I can on the ice in trying to get better and better, because as I said, it's a real privilege to do this.
Finally, Andy Murray is currently in action in the second round of the Australian Open. He won the first set 6-4 and is currently 2-love up in the second set against Marcel Granollers. And that's all the sport from me for now. Join me again later on this evening.
Thanks, Sam. And that will be with Andy Crane at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Still ahead on the lunchtime news, how we're all getting caught up in the net, and Strictly comes to Salford.
You won't necessarily think about looking at the television to watch television, going to a computer to look at the web. It'll be all around us, and you'll just subconsciously just be using everything.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. We're here every day between 12 and 1 with all of Greater Manchester's headlines. And you can always check out our reports online at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, the rookie policeman who was spared through the eye by a branch whilst conducting his first arrest, and meet the cellar master responsible for brewing City Life's own bitter. That's at channelm.co.uk. Now, a pensioner from Duckingfield who's been banned by Asda from using a mobility scooter in the store car park because they say it's dangerous, has sought the help of the Equality and Human Rights Commission because she feels she's being discriminated against because of her disability. They've offered her free delivery if she shops online instead, but she says that's not good enough.
They say that they've had a previous complaint from a previous person like myself, and they offered her free online shopping. I don't want free online shopping. I want access to and in and out of the store. I mean, I'm just so very, very angry about it. It's not just myself. There's other disabled people that use Asda stores, and it isn't right. It's just total discrimination. I would like to say that these people that make these rules, what they should do is sit in a wheelchair and go around for a week, and they would soon find out the difficulties that you meet, and things would change. They would change, absolutely, because it's no use somebody sitting in an office making these rules when they don't know the difficulties that the person has to meet.
An event being held in Manchester later today to celebrate how the internet's changed our lives over the last 40 years. And we're certainly still caught up with the web. James Webster, that is, he's been finding out how we're probably going to get even more tightly bound to the net in the future.
It was 1969, around the time televisions like this one were being developed so that people could watch the first man walk on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And at the same time, in America, scientists had come up with an early version of the internet.
Computers in those days occupied entire buildings and were very, very expensive. So the idea of linking computers together was really revolutionary. They started in America, West Coast America, and they linked 4 computers in December 1969. I can't imagine how they could have conceived of what's happened in 40 years. Who could have predicted multimedia, even the personal computer, let alone the mobile phone and its way of accessing the internet? I just don't see how they could have conceived any of it, really.
Here at the Museum of Science and Industry, you can see just how big some of the world's first computers would have been. This is a replica of one from the 1940s, with all its wires and switches. It's hardly the sort of thing that you could have inside your house, and despite its size, this would have had roughly the same processing power as just a modern calculator. Here in the UK, 2/3 of people are currently able to get online. Across the world, 22% can log on. That means every time you stick a new photo up on Facebook or post a new message on a blog, it could be read by up to 1.5 billion people.
I use the web pretty much every day. Unfortunately, I have fallen into the social networking craze of using Facebook and applications like that.
Just like quick things, like if you need to know like how much stuff is, like developing photos is usually in like prices for paper, because I'm an art student, so I kind of look that rather than going to shops, just quicker to do it that way.
Anything we need, like if we need any addresses or something, we can always go to yale.com and all these websites, so Google and obviously YouTube nowadays,
At the moment, you consciously go on the internet. I don't think that's going to be the case. You will naturally use information services that are delivered on the internet, but you won't consciously do it. And so you won't necessarily think about looking at a television to watch television, going to a computer to look at the web. It'll be all around us, and you'll just subconsciously just be using everything.
This is James Webster for Channel M News.
It swept the nation on a Saturday night, and now the stars of Strictly are helping Salford school children dance their way into their history books. Here's Nina Warhurst with more.
From our perspective, we do so much work with kids and young adults in dance, and we see the positive benefits of it. And for us, it's so important to give everybody the chance to do that. And that is so important, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give every young person the chance to dance.
Definitely, I think definitely this is the way forward, and it will give an opportunity to each child in the country to be able to dance and to learn to dance. And if they want to, they can take it on and make a profession out of it. If they don't, they can just enjoy it, just as a pastime hobby.
How many times have you watched the likes of Darren and Lily on a Saturday night and wished that you had the chance to cha-cha-cha, jive or waltz just like them? Well, 400 lucky Salford school children are taking part in the Essential Elite Dance programme. It's going to be rolled out across the nation, and it's encouraging young people to take part in ballroom dance and Latin dance. Now, tell us a bit more about it. What are the advantages for the kids?
Oh, goodness me, social and physical, having fun, coordination, exercise of course, and generally mixing boys and girls together, and hopefully across the whole family, getting the community, getting everybody together, having a good time, but benefiting with the social again and exercise aspect. Incredible. Children learn so many forms of etiquette, as well as on the sports side, the anaerobic, aerobic. It's endless, the
Endless, but it's something that isn't necessarily associated with boys. What would you say, Matthew, to people who say it's not for boys?
Well, it can be for anyone, really, because it's a good way to exercise and you can really, really enjoy it. I think it's absolutely brilliant and everyone should get involved.
So you would say to young lads of your age, it's not a girls' sport, it's for everybody to get involved?
Yeah, everybody. Everyone should have a go. Even if you can't dance, you can learn, and it's really brilliant.
We're going to have to go back to the studio now, Matthew, but you're ready. Sorry to do this to you. Keep dancing!
Now, what do you collect? Stamps, records, coins? Project manager Peter Moyer has spent 30 years collecting bottles, and to him, each one is a little treasure.
Over the last 30 odd years, worked in the construction industry. Companies I've worked for have generally done a lot of groundworks where we dig up old relics, like bottles, etc. Bottles being the things I've sort of collected over the years. Generally, they've been dug up out of the ground when we dig for drainage. The better looking bottles we have on a shelf in the kitchen. Quite a lot of them are stored away and they get changed every so often when we get fed up of seeing them. And friends and colleagues who I work with know I collect them, so if anybody else finds them before I do, they'll suddenly say, Peter, we found a bottle. Well, this is one of my favourite ones, which is what's called a cob bottle. Inside the cob bottle is a marble, and at the very top it should be a leather washer. So the principle of this bottle is that if it fell over, the marble will go to the top of the bottle and the products inside wouldn't spill. Very ingenious product, I think, that was produced donkey's years ago. I'm still collecting bottles, but unfortunately on the job I'm on here at Stockport, we haven't found anything yet.
Well, it was another bright and clear morning. Let's have a look and see what the weather has in store for us now with Michelle Eagleton.
Well, it really has been murky across Greater Manchester this morning, and indeed this afternoon we are going to see a lot of heavy showers. A little bit of a respite as we get to about 2, 3 o'clock. That's when we're going to see some heavy wind creep in, but unfortunately the rain is on its way back about tea time and well into the evening. In fact, the next couple of days are going to be dominated by rain, although tomorrow we are going to see a mixture of sunshine and showers, and if you have anything planned for outdoors, keep it to Saturday, because that's when we're going to see some sunny weather and it will be fairly dry.
You're watching Channel M's Lunchtime News. Our main headlines this afternoon. Dame Jean Else, a head teacher who was nationally praised for turning around a failing Manchester school, will find out this afternoon whether she can teach again. That's all from us on the Lunchtime team. Thanks a lot and see you later.